Pre-existing is going to be in there, and we're also going to create pools, and pools are going to take care of the pre-existing.
On that crucial question, it's not going to be left up to the states. Everybody gets pre-existing no matter where they live.
No, but the states are also going to have a lot to do with it, because we ultimately want to get it back down to the states.
You heard it from the president. The Republicans plan to repeal and replace Obamacare, and they're saying it will cover pre-existing conditions, a decision that will not be left up to states. Joining me now is Republican Congressman Jim Jordan of the state of Ohio, a member of the Freedom Caucus. Congressman, I want to dissect this. Gary Cohn and Reince Priebus this morning says the votes are in, it's going to pass.
I think the votes are there, and I think it will pass later this week. I mean, it's close, but I think it will pass.
Help me understand, are pre-existing conditions going to be covered? The president says they're going to be covered beautifully. We got you. I've mandated it. But having access...
There's $115 billion in the legislation. Well, first of all, the legislation explicitly says pre-existing conditions are covered. There's $115 billion in the bill for states to set up these safety net provisions that we call high-risk pools. So yes, that is in the legislation. What we're trying to do is reward responsible behavior. If you maintain continuous coverage, you're not going to lose coverage. If you change, they can't jack up your rates because you change and you have some serious illness with you or your family. So the idea is to reward responsible behavior, which the legislation does, and allow states to have this money to set up these safety net provisions that we call high-risk pools.
Since these high-risk pools haven't really been tested, how do you...
Well, they have, Stephanie. In the state of Maine, it's worked very well. But you want that there for the people in families with the really tough, inexpensive health care concerns. But you also want states to have the ability to seek the waiver to get out from under those regulations driving up premiums for middle-class families. And so that's the balance we try to strike. But you said in your opening comments, or someone said that we're repealing Obamacare. Let's be clear, we're not. This is not full repeal. We need to get there. The American people expect Republicans to do it. The 2010, 2014, 2016 elections were about that. But we conservatives feel this is the best bill we can get out of the House, but there is definitely more work to do.
But do you definitely need to repeal? To say repeal and replace, listen, that's beautiful on the campaign trail. But if you get to where the American people need to be, why can't it just be tweak it?
Well, I mean, that's not what we told the American people. I say this all the time. We make our job way too complicated. Our job is real basic. Do what you told the people you were going to do. My guess is we left the impression with the American people who elected us to come to Congress, who gave us the majority, gave us the White House. We left the impression with them that we were going to get rid of Obamacare.
Okay, Congressman.
So we need to do that.
If you need to do what you tell the American people, well, guess what? The president said, I'm going to lock her up. The president said, I'm going to divest myself from my businesses. The president, I mean, like, I'm going to build a wall. The president had a long list of things he said he was going to do. So how do you say, well, we told the American people we're going to do this. I don't see any plans to lock Hillary Clinton up. I also don't see President Trump going after women who said they sexually assaulted him legally. So what you tell the American people and what you execute.
What I told the folks in the 4th District of Ohio, I know what they expect us to do. And certainly when you have a major election in 2010 where they gave the House to Republicans, 2014 where they gave the Senate to the Republicans, and 2016 where we now control all of government, they expect us to repeal Obamacare. This bill is better than when it started. All the tax increases under Obamacare are going in this legislation because of conservatives' engagement and involvement in this debate. Able-bodied adults in the Medicaid expansion population, there's now a work component for those individuals. And, of course, this option for states to seek the waiver to get out from underneath those key Obamacare regulations that are driving up costs. That makes it better, but it's not full repeal, and we got more work to do in the Senate.
I want to talk tax reform for a moment. I want to share what Mike Pence had to say this weekend.
But you are going to increase the deficit.
Well, you know, maybe in the short term, but the truth is if we don't get this economy growing at 3% or more, as the president believes that we can, we're never going to meet the obligations that we've made today.
Given that Freedom Caucus members are known to be budget hawks, how is this not going to jack up the deficit? Simply saying we're going to get corporations to go from paying 35% to 15%?
Yeah, but we do need to cut spending elsewhere in the budget. We've been for that. But this idea that we should do tax reform in a revenue-neutral environment, revenue-neutral is a fancy way of saying the tax burden is going to stay the same. But typically what happens in that situation is the politically connected get a special deal. middle-class families get a raw deal. So
but that's what this looks like.
Well, no, our attitude is let's let families keep more of their money, reform on the personal side and on the corporate side, and let's create a tax code that's conducive to economic growth. When you have the highest corporate rate in the world, that's not conducive to economic growth. So let's bring the corporate rate down.
You may have the highest we may have the highest corporate tax rate in the world on paper, but what corporations actually pay? I watched Ginny Rometty from IBM yesterday talk about how we need to see corporate tax rate go down.
Right.
Do you know what IBM got last quarter? A credit, a 9% credit. So as long as tax structurers and specialists exist and corporations hire them, and we know they do, they ain't never paying 35%.
That's why we got to simplify the tax code.
So that's a flat tax.
Understand where we are right now. On the personal side, any tax code that says that half the population you don't have to participate in the main tax is broken. Any tax code on the corporate side which says to American corporations you're going to pay the highest rate in the world is stupid. So if you have a tax code that's both broken and stupid, you might want to change it, right? So that's what this seeks to do. Certainly we got to get rid of the exemptions, deductions, and credits, all that stuff and the complicated stuff in the code. Let's lower the rate. Let's make it simpler, flatter, fairer on the personal side as well. That's what the American people want. And frankly, back to our point again, this is something we campaigned on and told them we were going to do.
Carried interest, you ready to close that loophole?
I think that's something we got to look at. I do.
Look at?
Yeah.
Or close?
We'll see.